Vanessa needed a studio for her brand, not a roommate. My father did not even bother to stand up to say it. He just sat there, slowly turning a glass of expensive wine in his hand. I stood in the doorway holding to tickets for a flower cruise I had bought for them, still believing we were something close to a family. "She's actually doing something with her life," Dale said flatly, nodding toward Vanessa's newly painted future. "You're dead weight, Carenza. Take your trash out of my hallway. Go live on the streets. Maybe the cold will wipe that sour look off your face." I looked past him. My childhood bedroom was gone. The walls dripped with aggressive neon pink paint. Ring lights stood where my desk used to be. My entire life had been stuffed into 3 black garbage bags and left on the floor like damp leaves after a storm. I did not scream. I did not cry. I carefully placed the envelope with the cruise tickets on the hallway table, a silent symbol of a vacation that would never happen. Then I picked up my garbage bags and stepped into the freezing night without saying a word. I drove my battered sedan through blinding snow until I found a roadside motel with a flickering sign. The heater rattled like a dying lung, blowing weak warmth onto my frozen hands. There was something almost poetic about it. My parents hated that car. They said it ruined the look of the driveway. They never knew I drove it on purpose. It was camouflage. Sitting on the lumpy motel bed, listening to wind claw at the window, my thoughts drifted back to the root of everything. My father called it the loss of $5 million. It happened when I was a child. He had an investor meeting for a startup about to explode into something enormous. That same morning I spiked a dangerous fever and had a seizure. He missed the meeting to take me to the emergency room. The company soared. The investors who attended became multimillionaires. Dale never forgave me. Every birthday after that, once the cake was cut and the candles were gone, he would look at me with empty resentment and say, "You cost me $5 million. You started life in the negative." He did not raise a daughter. He managed a bad investment. That resentment turned into what I privately called the parasite tax. From my teenage years on, I paid rent in my own home. Every paycheck from part-time jobs was partially collected. Dale called it interest on a debt. In reality, I was financing the golden child. Vanessa was the asset. I was the liability. When Vanessa wanted to model, I paid for her portfolio. When she wanted to be an influencer, Bella insisted I fund lip fillers and spa packages so she could look like a billionaire's future wife. Month after month they squeezed me, convincing me I should be grateful they had not thrown me out sooner. They looked at my oversized hoodies and messy bun and saw a failure. They saw a struggling freelance coder barely making ends meet. They were wrong. I pulled my laptop from my bag and set it on the motel desk. The case was scratched, unimpressive. Inside, however, was something else entirely. They thought I fixed printers for a living. They did not know I was a financial sanitation specialist for venture funds on retainer. When companies gamble with investor money and falsify books, I get called in. I hunt fraud. I trace hidden assets. I expose rotten ledgers and cut it out cleanly. I am surgical. I am relentless. And I am very expensive. My annual base income was more than most executives in our city. I could have bought their house outright with cash. I could have erased their mortgage in a single afternoon. But I never told them. I hid my money in layered accounts and diversified portfolios. I wore second-hand clothes and drove a rusted sedan because I knew if they ever discovered my real worth, they would not just drain me. They would devour me. That night in the motel, blue screen light across my face, I realized something. They thought they had discarded trash. They had just declared war. I reached for my laptop bag again to start working. My hand closed around emptiness. The bag felt wrong. Too light. My stomach dropped. I emptied everything onto the bed. Charger. Cables. External drive. No laptop. I did not panic. I opened the tracking app on my phone and watched the small blinking dot appear on the map. It was not at my parents' house. It was only a few miles away, pulsing steadily on a side street. A pawn shop. The smell of dust and quiet desperation hit me the moment I walked inside. I showed the man behind the counter my identification and the serial number on my phone screen. He barely looked up. "Receipt," he said. "Policy." I went back to my car, tore open the garbage bags on the icy pavement, digging through old clothes and books until I found a crumpled yellow slip stained with coffee. Bella had not just packed my things. She had stripped them. I paid to buy back my own property and sat in the driver's seat afterward, pressing the cold metal of the laptop to my chest. Then another notification appeared on my phone. A transfer of liability. I stared at it, uncomprehending at first. The sedan, the one I bought with cash but registered under Dale's name years ago to save on insurance, had been sold online. Sold while I was driving it. He must have used the spare key and finalized the sale while I was inside being thrown out. Tens of thousands in assets gone in a single evening. I called Bella. She answered with irritation, as if I were interrupting something important. You pawned my laptop and sold my car. We raised you, she snapped. Consider the laptop a small repayment. And Vanessa's launch party needed a deposit. You can always buy another computer. You're alone. You have fewer expenses. She hung up. I sat there in the dark parking lot, snow falling softly around me, and something inside me finally locked into place. It was not a breakdown. It was clarity. I opened the laptop. Sleep was irrelevant. Deadlines mattered. I logged into private databases used to track distressed assets and high-risk liabilities. I started with the money from my car. I traced the transaction. The sale price was laughable. The funds did not go toward utilities or mortgage payments. They went to an elite event agency. He sold my car to pay for a chocolate fountain and an ice sculpture for Vanessa's brand launch. I dug deeper, initiating a full asset search on Dale and Bella. They had complained about being broke for years. I expected strain. I did not expect collapse. Their house had been refinanced repeatedly. Credit lines maxed. A default notice had been filed recently. They were weeks away from losing the property entirely. The house they threw me out of was not even theirs anymore. It belonged to the bank. And the bank was coming. But losing a house is tragedy. I needed leverage. So I built it. I knew Dale's weakness was vanity disguised as ambition. With the help of a corporate attorney who owed me a favor, I created a shell holding company and extended an irresistible offer. Consolidate debt, invest in Vanessa's promising future, save the family empire. He responded immediately. In his eagerness, he forwarded financial documents, including their latest refinancing application. I opened it slowly, scanning inflated property values, minimized debts, and then I saw it. Vanessa listed as co-applicant. Annual income. An outrageous fabricated number supposedly from brand partnerships. It was fiction. A lie submitted to a federally insured bank. That is not optimism. That is fraud. I archived everything across multiple secure servers and leaned back in the motel chair as dawn crept over dirty snow. He thought he had found a savior. He had sent evidence to an executioner. A meeting was arranged at a law office under the illusion of finalizing funding. I arrived early and watched through a private feed as they entered dressed in their best clothes. Dale in a tight suit. Bella polished and eager. Vanessa glued to her phone. They signed without reading. Arrogance makes paperwork invisible. Then I walked in. No oversized hoodie. No second-hand denim. Tailored gray suit. Hair precise. Presence undeniable. Dale's smile collapsed mid-gesture. What are you doing here? He demanded. I placed the pawn ticket on the table first. Then the property transfer documents. Then the refinancing application with the false income highlighted. You submitted fraudulent information, I said calmly, which triggered default clauses in the agreement you just signed. Silence filled the room like smoke. You lied, I continued. And in doing so, you handed me the house. They stared at the projected documents as if the letters might rearrange into something kinder. They would call it bank fraud, I added softly. I call it leverage. I gave them a choice. Vacate quietly, or I forward the file to federal authorities and let prosecutors explain sentencing guidelines. They left within days. Fear moves faster than love ever did in that house. Before listing the property, I walked through it one last time. My old room still screamed neon pink. I left it that way, a monument to their greed. Outside, beside my new car registered solely in my name, I scrolled through my contacts. Dale, Bella, Vanessa. No speeches. No closure. Just block. The silence afterward was complete. Family is not blood. Family is respect. And if they cannot afford to give it, they cannot afford to keep you.